Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, getting ready for a party in the LBK, 20 years in the making.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you on today's episode. We are engaged and kicking off the biggest week in almost 2 decades. It's Red Raiders, it's Cougars, unbeaten BYU is on the way. It's college game day and all that comes with that. So I want to dive into setting the table for this week in just a moment. And of course, we've also got to go back to the weekend that was to touch on another huge addition recruiting-wise as you continue to sustain your momentum there and possibly the QB of the future for the Red Raiders now on board. But I want to talk a little bit about the timeline and what that looks like with the commitment of one Kavion Bryant announced on Saturday. But Chris, here we are, man. College game day is on the way. You've essentially got a national platform at your disposal. This weekend should be a great party. I have no doubt there will be a football game to deal with as well. So let's not get lost in all of the pomp and circumstance sauce, but that's what we're here for. I know you've said that literally before, the pomp, the circumstance, the combustion, the smoke, the whatever. That's what we're here for. So no way to ignore that, right? It's going to be a hell of a party in Lubbock this week.
I mean, you've got basketball season begins. You've got a Tuesday night and at 7 o'clock, and then a Friday night at 7 o'clock. I think the Friday night game is already sold out. I think that at the time we were talking, I think Tuesday night was like a few, I don't know, around 100 or so ish tickets from being sold out. This fan base is just busting at the seams, and you're creating environments that it's just, this is a lot of fun. And again, I hope people are enjoying it. And all. By the way, some of what I've seen from our conference brethren out there is quite embarrassing as it relates to crowds. Like, up your game, man, or you're going to get kicked out. I mean, it's and I'm talking to you, Houston. You're ranked in the top 25, and you got a home game, and you're right in the middle of the conference race, and you had, like, I don't know, it looked like 15,000 people there. Like, what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing? Anyway, that's their problem, but it's embarrassing, and you're guilty by association, unfortunately. So, but your situation in Lubbock this weekend will be. It's been 17 years in the making, like you said, man. I mean, it's and there's so many things that have to play out for, like, not just one of these shows to show up, but you got a little lucky. It's got to fall just right, and you just don't know when that's going to happen for you. And you have to have if you were playing UCF this weekend and everything was still the same. Yeah, I don't know if that shows up, and it's a bit of a different dynamic. But it just, schedules fall the way that they fall, and then other people lose, and you look up on a Saturday and they're looking for the best thing, and they're going to be staring at a top 10 matchup right here that's going to be on ABC, on national television, and all roads lead to this, because we said in the summertime you had those 3 road contests that's what scared you. That's what your season was going to come down to, and you've won 2 of the 3. And when we said that, we had no idea at the time, shame on us, that BYU would rise up. And I mean, because let's look at it. Over the last 2 years, I think BYU is 19-2. 19-2. Tell me how they barely win. Tell me how they just, they just are eking it out, and it's all smoke and mirrors. I'll smoke and mirror my way to 19-2 every day of the week and twice on Sunday through 21 games. That is big time. And And so you're not done with your tests. And now this is what some are going to call the Big 12 game of the year, certainly to this point. And you got the one team left undefeated in the league, and you got a team with the one loss that's nipping on their heels, and it all comes to Lubbock, and we'll all find out together what this looks like.
As a fan, I'll do my best to not get lost in the pomp and circumstance sauce, but it really doesn't matter if I do. It's more about the team and not getting overwhelmed, obviously, by this setting, Chris. And I think it could very easily happen in a lot of cases, but I also think I'm really glad that you've got such veteran leadership and maturity on this roster. And I hope that's going to be useful for you this week and trying to, if you can, stay focused on football.
That's the one part where I think that the 11 a.m. kick would benefit the team. They won't really be a part of any of that. It will be going on out of sight, out of mind. There may be something going on the field, for an hour, their warm-ups and all those kinds of things. But it's like, to sum up your point of how mature you are, I'll just say this, like watching the post-game stuff, I think Barron and Caleb Douglas were sitting up there as the media was kind of talking to them, and somehow the game day thing came up, and Caleb Douglas was like, he goes, "Yeah, man, why is it a big deal? We had this last year. Game day came here," and he was referring to like Big Noon, but they don't know like all like the differences in those shows, or like it was just there was some TV show out there last year, like and granted you did lose that game, but they are not caught up into all that stuff. And if you don't play well, I just think it's because BYU was better and whatnot. I don't think that and Vegas sure doesn't seem to think that they are. That's what's interesting. I don't even want to mention the spread here, because at the time I'm telling you this, it could be very, very different. But I saw some of the early projections and the early numbers when it opened, and it's for a team that is undefeated and a team that is ranked higher than you and all that. Vegas sure seems to think that you will fare very well. So whatever, we'll kind of find out together what that looks like, because Vegas knows most of the time, but not every time. But and you know what else too? I think that this is. I think BYU has been the best addition of any of the schools in the Big 12. Okay, of the ones that were added, of the 8 of them, They have, again, I just mentioned to you, 19-2 in football over the last season and a half. Their basketball team went to the Sweet 16 last year. They have invested. They are a national brand to a certain extent, and I think we had a lot of these conversations in the summertime about Texas Tech and BYU were getting pointed at, looked at, like side-eyed, or like there was some jealousy. But some of the conversation led to, are these the two that could emerge and be the biggest brands, like with some staying power in a variety of different sports? And it's just not lost on me that this game sets up to where people are saying, maybe a Big 12 game of the year as it stands right now. You've both beaten Utah. I think Utah has been a good addition as well, at least in football this year. Last year it was a bit of a disaster. But anyway, I just and I think people will, if you are trying to sell your tickets to this game this weekend, don't be shocked if BYU people buy them. There will be plenty of BYU blue in that stadium on Saturday. This is just what they do. I've seen it. They're everywhere, and it's a national brand. So be prepared for that.
Chris, this does kind of feel like, thankfully, knock on wood, one of those rare weeks where we don't necessarily have to start our matchup conversation with thoughts about what shape Texas Tech's quarterback is in. And we might even be focusing a little bit more on the opponent's quarterback. I don't know. We've got all week to dive into what the Cougars have going on, but would you give me maybe just a little preview, a couple of seconds on where you think the BYU football conversation starts? First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered, and it's quick, easy, and secure. every time. Ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
I think that their head coach, Kalani Sitake, should be, to this point, he's the Big 12 Coach of the Year because of what I've just said. Everybody always points to what's wrong with BYU, or it doesn't look this way, or their schedule this, or they barely did this, or whatever, and they just win. There's a clutch component there. They do it in a variety of different ways. There's some – and I need to maybe stop using this example because these two teams are down, but when Kansas State and Iowa State are really good, there's some things that stick out to you, and that's kind of what BYU looks like. Again, the don't beat yourself. They can beat you in any facet. They're tough. They're well-rounded. They're not super explosive. You could make the argument that they're not going to out-athlete you, but they'll out-execute you, out-experience you, and all that stuff. But Bear Bachmeier, the irony is not lost on me here that Stanford coaching change is a big reason why these two teams are maybe playing this massive game. And you're going, huh? Well, I mean, David Bailey is going to be chasing after Bear Bachmeier on Saturday, and they're only in those places because Stanford made a coaching change. Keep in mind, part of why we dismissed BYU a bit or didn't give them the credit is because they had a situation with their quarterback from last year who was dismissed, who's now playing at Tulane. Well, enter Bear Bachmeier, who enters this competition, and he emerged, and he's been great and better than anybody would have thought as a true freshman. He just showed up, and I don't know technically if it was May or June or whatever it was, but, I mean, this is nuts, okay, what he's doing. And David Bailey, obviously, hey, pass rusher on the market, portal, it's open, we could use it. What do you think? Make it happen. He's here on a plane 24 hours later, and he leaves the country in sacks. But these two, and hell, BYU may have won that trade. And that's what's crazy. I mean, BYU that's insane to think about, but BYU may have had the better end of the deal on getting Stanford players, because you just have the 1 year with Bailey and Bachmeier. He's a true freshman. He wears number 47. You're going to see a lot of QB run game. I think there's a major question. And maybe this is why Vegas thinks that the way they do. I don't know. There's a major question about their star running back, and LJ Martin, who was once a Texas Tech commit, originally from El Paso. I don't know what the status of him is going to be. We'll have to monitor that this week. If he plays, if he does, what level he's at. I think there's some concern that he's just fine or that he's out for the year. I've seen all of it. I guess we'll see what the injury report looks like when we get it. But healthy respect for Kalani Sitake, and Joey McGuire will tell you the same thing. This guy's what it's all about. Toughness, does it the right way. He's a good man, and BYU's lucky to have him. They just have won. I mean, like, what else do you want? They just win and figure out a variety of ways to do it, and they're not recruiting top 10 classes or anything. They just put it together, and it's culture and it's team, and they figure it out. And there's a clutch component there with this quarterback and with this program right now that they just kind of figured out, just like they did last year when everybody was pointing, they're not that good. I mean, 11-2. I mean, so that's where you're at. That's what you're looking at right now.
Is there anything similar you feel like in a previous opponent that is applicable to this one, or are they kind of a creature unto themselves?
Well, it's going to be similar to what you just faced maybe in Kansas State. I think they have a much better defense than Kansas State does, and maybe their quarterback isn't quite as dynamic, but that's kind of how they're built. Okay, It's opportunistic. It is clutch. It is be really good when it really matters late in these games. And they just don't screw a lot up. They've got two receivers, and let's see. I'm making sure that Chase Roberts and Parker. I was familiar with Parker Kingston, but Chase Roberts is the other one. But those are really the two most targeted guys. But the quarterback's going to run it a ton, so you can expect to see that. And you had trouble with that. I think, to be fair, this isn't. he's not going to be as athletic or as dynamic as Avery Johnson is, but he's probably, this is more of he's their second leading rusher, and he's got like 9 rushing touchdowns on the season or something crazy. So it'll be fascinating, but they just, if you think they're going to come here and like not play sound and all that, I just think you're sadly mistaken. And we'll get gassed up a lot this week about, they're not that good. Stop. They barely beat this. And that's what I'm saying. And maybe you'll have some crazy success on Saturday. And then we can come back like we did against Kansas State and go, well, maybe you're just playing at a different level. But I have a healthy respect for them for what they've been able to do in the last 2 years, because like I said, man, that record, if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what I can do for you. And it's not been the sexiest thing or the most explosive thing or the most eye-popping thing, but again, the results are the results. 19 and what would I say? 19-2 over the last 2 years. I mean, that's just nuts.
And I thought BYU got the shaft harder than anyone in the country.
Yep, I agree.
Playoff wise, and they're sort of still getting it this year. I feel like they're probably one of the most disrespected or under-respected teams, undefeated teams in the country. But
and part of their problem is kind of, they have a close win over Arizona. There's their non-conference schedule wasn't. I think the East Carolina game at the time was a bit trickier than everybody would have thought, but you're just not going to get a lot of credit there. Their most impressive win is at home versus Utah, winning by 3. And then I just thought Iowa State would be a much different thing. I'm just done with the Cyclones. I mean, everybody can keep telling me every offseason, oh, be careful about Matt Campbell. I'm just done with that deal. They had back-to-back home games against Arizona State and against these BYU Cougars, and they just – Rocco Beck this and that. I mean, I'm done with it. But I thought Iowa State – so credit to – you have to credit BYU for, after this massive emotional win, going on the road to Iowa State, and Iowa State's playing for their lives, and you go win by 14. So while Iowa State may not be great in your eyes or my eyes or whatever, there's still the when you play people and where you play them component, and I think BYU passed that test with flying colors, and that's the last time we've seen this team. They were obviously off this past weekend. So they've been sitting home trying to heal up. Again, I just don't know what the status of LJ Martin, but no, this is. I don't disagree that they've not been respected as much nationally as they should have, but they have a chance to earn that this weekend. I think they would. There always comes a point in a season where you kind of hit that one game, and if you win it or you lose it, just like Texas Tech did with Colorado last year, and you couldn't get it done, and you've got a mulligan here, and so we'll see what you do with it.
All right, Chris, before we get out of here, we do have to look to the future beyond just this Saturday for a moment, because you had a huge addition in the form of a commitment from Palestine, Texas quarterback Kavion Bryant. And curious to get some thoughts from you on this addition. This was announced on Saturday during the game. If somehow you missed it, we would understand. But this is not one worth not paying attention to. Obviously, this is a huge, huge addition. And kind of curious about the timeline here. We've had so much talk about some of these other guys and reclassifications and early enrollments and whatever other possibilities may be out there. Is it a little bit different when it comes to the QB room versus others? Or what did you make of the addition? How do you kind of see this playing out in months and years to come? First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly feel the call of the stadium. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can then splurge on foods, drinks, gear, and more. Gametime makes it all possible. And best of all, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And if you're like me, you get tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal, and that's why Gametime's Zone Deals is the go-to move, since it automatically picks the best seats in your section for you at the best price. And as always, you can get a view from your seat right there in the app. So before you buy, you know exactly what you're going to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed.
Okay, so I think Texas Tech has been in a good place here for several weeks and months. I think there were some things got put into the ether in the last couple of weeks, trying to throw you off. Not you specifically, Cowan, but just throw the fan bases off, because I think that the kid generally wanted it to be a surprise. He had an announcement where he kind of had the hats there, and he kind of playing the game or whatever, and even picked up the Tech hat. It was like, no, and then went back to it. It was like, guns up and all that stuff. I think this has been in the works for several weeks and months. I think that while the recruiting reporter industry maybe wasn't as sure about it, I think internally at Texas Tech, I think they felt great about it, and they made Kavion a priority and have for a while. And this is a true dual threat. Just go watch the highlights. He's a freak, absolute freak, and run it, spin it. He's got some now you see me, now you don't in his game. And I'm here for that. I just think he's going to major in that. I just think, though, that at some level you have to have it in the college game these day and age. If you don't have a guy that can move and extend plays at a minimum, I just think you're playing with one arm tied behind your back, the way defenses have evolved. And what we're just telling you about the Kansas State game last weekend, that was their only hope. And that's the only success they had, was running their quarterback. You shut down, for the most part, everything else, but you have a tough time having an answer consistently for the QB run game until you get that sorted out and all those things. So anyway, I think Kavion be a welcomed addition. And again, it's at a premium position. I mean, offensive tackle, defensive line, quarterback, it certainly fits the mold, and I think they prioritized it. I think you were kind of hinting at the timeline here, and I want to go over that because I think people are curious. Reclass, question mark? I don't think so. I wouldn't just totally rule that out. I don't know if anybody involved really is leaning on that right now or wants that to happen, because keep in mind the way you've got your budgets structured and all these things, because the Will Hammond injury, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, Will Hammond could theoretically potentially be staring at a redshirt year next year. Okay. So you are going to have to go find a QB1 in the portal. You just are. And that is coming outside of the plan on paper of how you were allocating funds. Okay. Well, Kavion, if he's here sooner than later, and you haven't planned on that, or haven't because I think with LaDainian Guyton, they knew all along he was reclassifying and had planned for that and all that stuff. Am I making sense to you see how I'm So plus, I think Kavion getting here sooner, that is a weird dynamic for Will Hammond and Lloyd Jones, and I mean, so I think you're trying to stagger this accordingly. That's a different position than most. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on it. If anything changes, I wouldn't totally rule it out, but I think there's some purposeful of thinking of this isn't good for any or either party to do it this way. So anyway, but hey man, great news. And what is it with these announcements during these games? It's like I got too much to deal with right now. I can't deal with this too.
Give us a chance to party. Just
that's what I'm saying
for this.
Absolutely, like drop it on a Tuesday at noon, man. But hey, man, the kid got his moment. He had his announcement, and there was coverage of it and all that. It happened to be like just after halftime of the game in Manhattan. So yeah, I would say pretty good little day on Saturday for the Red Raiders for the right now and for the future. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's definitely something that feels different position to position when you're talking about reclassification or things like that. And not to suggest that advancing the timeline isn't great also for a quarterback, but would feel a little bit different to me, at least, if you're talking about like a defensive lineman or a pass rusher or somebody like that, that you really feel like could almost come in early and boom, get in the mix.
And Guyton will do just that. I mean, I think Guyton will, at the minimum, next year be a rotational guy. You're not going to ask him to go start or anything, but in a spot situation or a heavy rotation guy, absolutely. You want to give him a chance. Let's put some weight on you. Let's get you coached up and all the things, but they will still be active defensive line wise in the portal. But quarterback's a bit different too from that standpoint. Growing up physically, mentally, and there's just a lot that comes with that spot. But hey, man, it's all good news, man.
Yep.
We'll just keep dealing out the good news left and right. Hopefully that continues into next week.
I'd love to be back with good news each day of the week, and then another round on next Sunday following, hopefully, the biggest win yet for the Red Raiders. Chris, appreciate your time as always, man. Going to be a fun week, so hope everybody will get subscribed out there on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts as we get ready for this son of a gun Saturday morning from Jones Stadium. Appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next one.
Hey, man, I hope it's never been more alive than it is right now, man. Again, soak it up, enjoy it, walk out with some confidence into whatever work setting you are or just with your buddies or whatever. But, remember, act like you've been there before, even though you really kind of haven't, So we'll wait and pop the top Saturday at about 3 o'clock if it goes your way. So there we go, man. But, yeah, appreciate the time, folks, man. And if you were in Manhattan, you saw a bit of a unicorn there, man, and I know that we hope to see that strange mythical creature again at some point very, very soon.
No doubt. I think everybody's walking with their chest puffed out a little bit further in West Texas this week. I heard some were even doing the Tupac walk down the aisle to take communion on Sunday, so we're feeling pretty good this time around. And
send us video of that if you have it.
We'd love to have that video. All right. For Chris, I'm Casey. Appreciate you guys for being out there. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the Everydayers for always riding along. And, of course, the Matador Mob as well. Hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. And hope you'll join us on the next episode as well, because we will make a pit stop for a little hoops conversation as we're rolling out a top 10 team preseason for another season. If you did not know or need the reminder, that party begins this week as well. So we got a whole lot shaking, and we'll be here to chop it up with all of you on all of that. Thanks for the time as always. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.